It's a boardroom conversation today that what are you doing with your data?
Right.
How are you leveraging that data to be able to do it?
In year 2024, data science featured in 47% of the job descriptions. In this year, till date, it had crossed 70%.
Vika is the new normal. In that world, data science is the only way to cope with it.
Every 3 to 4 months, we have our faculty getting trained on newer dimensions of the pedagogical changes that need to be driven.
If you're not upping the game,
Right.
then this technology will catch up with you.
Hello and a warm welcome to another episode of Future Proofed in association with GLA University. In this podcast, we bring you experts across industry and academics who are shaping the future of work. They weigh in on diverse subjects, bringing their unique perspectives on how forward-thinking education can build employable graduates who are ready for the careers of tomorrow. I'm your host, Gaurav Choudhury. In this episode, we discover what the multidisciplinary field of data science has to offer. Big data rules our lives, from a choice of financial products to healthcare and entertainment. It's driving cutting-edge R&D and accelerating scientific breakthrough. Those who learn how to turn data into a narrative have a clear upper hand. Ratuldev Ghosh Choudhury, Professor of Practice, GLA University, and Jagdish Mitra, founder and CEO of HumanizeTech.Ai, are joining me today to unpack data science as a career track. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Delighted to have you. Professor Ghosh Choudhury, first to you. Data analytics, of course, is now one of the most sought after courses. And courses in data analytics are being sought not just by students, but also by mid-career professionals. Now, the key thing is here, and of course, if someone is doing a bachelor's now in data analytics, the obvious response is that is going to give you an edge in your career, and probably rightly so. But having said that, since it's very dynamic and things are changing so rapidly, the key element here isn't it about having a lifelong learning mindset, because it cannot be the case where you have learned something and then you can rely on it to actually pursue and push your career ahead. That's not going to happen any longer, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, you're so true, Gaurav, and that has been true for ages.
Right.
Only difference is now that learning curve has become steeper and steeper and steeper, and it's going
That's
to
right.
continue getting steeper and steeper. Yes, so if you look at how academia actually needs to train its students, is not just on A platform or B platform or C platform or on a specific language. It is about a change in the way they look at things. The way they need to inculcate the whole concept of lifelong learning. Being in data sciences or any cutting edge technology or stream that you may say definitely gives an edge to the students. That's true. Where it gives them the edge is that ability to think,
Right.
creating the platform on which they can build their careers. But at no point in time that will guarantee success for eternity. They will have to become adaptable, and that is what lifelong learning is all about. So, and you'll see the professionals who are propagating or becoming evangelists of data sciences, decision sciences, or AI, ML, whatever you name it, they didn't study AI, ML, decision sciences when they were graduating. So they also changed streams.
Right.
So it's a lot about lifelong learning. But yes, to bring in that mindset amongst the student community is what is going to be the game changer there.
Absolutely. Jagdish Mitra, let me come to you. Data science and data analysis, the entire field and universe, it's like a known unknown. We don't know how it's going to change, and clearly data is the new oil, and that's more than a cliche now. We can see that happening, including in the world of politics and election, because the Da Vinci code that every political party is trying to crack is, and that's through data, is that when and how does a voter decide to vote. But that's a different matter. What I want to ask you is, how challenging is the field of data analytics and data science from a professional point of view, because you need to constantly upgrade yourself with skills, and how challenging is it given the fact that it's a known unknown?
First of all, Gaurav, thank you for having me here. And as Professor Choudhury said, it's this whole challenge is about the speed of learning.
Yeah.
And I think I can only borrow from what Andy Grove said, that this whole speed at which things will change is going to change faster. I think the challenge is, we all know, even people sitting in this room know that we've got to unlearn and learn. How often do you do it? Do we do it with a structure? And do we practice what we preach? Is probably where most of the gap lies.
Right.
And therefore, we all know data science is absolutely a critical part. You said it's oil. So if it's the oil, then data science is the engine that uses the oil to drive towards a certain part. Though I don't know in the electric vehicle world what should be the analogy, but maybe it's the electricity. The point I'm trying to make is, it's a very tough place to be in, because if you don't get your your learning of the models on how to use data science and effectively, you will get it wrong. But you also know that without that, there is no agility in business. Without that, there is no predictability of business, and there's no competitive edge. So the three things that you need, at least I can speak from a business side, is the reason for having data science. It's a boardroom conversation today, that what are you doing with your data?
Right.
How are you leveraging that data to be able to do it? But the tough part that you mentioned is, from a tech perspective, to make sure that the data that you are actually using has proper structure to it, has enough foundational models that it is using, and it's leveraging the data and storing. Because if it's garbage in, then there will be garbage out.
Right.
So the point that I think I'm trying to make is, getting the fundamental structure of data and therefore being able to do the analytics on the data is two key important activities. Then comes the role of the data scientist, who's actually going to model it properly so that you can get the value of it. And the reason why he was talking about learning is that each of these three structures will constantly change at a much higher pace.
Absolutely.
So how do you keep pace with it?
Absolutely.
So that's the problem.
You know, Professor Ratuldev, data science, of course, is one of the most sought after courses in the stream of science. But how does sitting today, can we just predict how does the career path of a student is going to look like? Just help us look into the crystal ball and tell us how does it going to look like?
A very difficult question, but nonetheless, looking at the current trends, if you do a quick search on the job portals of the job postings and the job descriptions that have been posted, in year 2024, data science featured in 47% of the job descriptions. And guess what? In this year till date, just about till last month, it had crossed 70%. 70% of the job postings are containing the word decision sciences or data sciences. That growth within 1 year of almost doubling itself is indication enough how big the landscape is going to be. And if you look at even the real world scenarios, you used to look at Zeptos of the world. How are they able to deliver within 10 minutes? We can get into a conversation, should 10 minutes be the norm or not, that's a different part.
Yeah.
How is Netflix getting you the recommendations right? More often than not, they're showing the right recommendation. All that is happening because of data science.
Absolutely.
There's so much of data, and that's where the big data piece comes. With big data and with the GPUs becoming powerful and stronger, and look at the signaling systems, traffic management systems. That's massive amount of data. Today, you and me, the three of us are seated here. The information is out there. Our phones are so capable of letting the whole world know that so how is this data being used? So data is being used in multiple different ways, and that is the reason why you see a proliferation of jobs focused on data science. I can tell you there are more number of jobs in data science than we have people who are capable of actually delivering there. So I don't have any fear in saying, it's not even crystal balling, it's absolutely clear to me. That is definitely a career path that you have to keep yourself up to date. It is going to change rapidly. but that's a good platform to be in.
Absolutely. And if 70% of job searchers are in the realm of data science, and so someone like me who comes from a liberal arts background, I don't think I would have had any chance in today's day and age. But nonetheless, Jagdish Mitra, there are massive sets of data that organizations are now using, and Professor said that, gave some examples of Netflix and Zepto, etc. But how are organizations actually dealing and processing this data? Because as the science itself is evolving so rapidly, data itself is it's assuming completely new character. Give us some real life examples.
Quite a few of them. I mean, he talked about Zepto, he talked about Netflix. Both are great examples of where value is being delivered using data science. I mean, closer to home, I mean, there are the international examples of many which are Amazons of the world, which are deciding what you should buy, what you should predict. I mean, there's this famous story of the family finding out later, depending on the goods that were being ordered, that their daughter was expecting a child, but the Amazon knew about it. So the point I'm trying to make is that those examples are there which have been oft used. But right home, close home to India. I mean, our biggest thing that we are absolutely proud about is our digital public infrastructure. All of it uses significant amount of data science. Whether it is the way payments are to be done, whether RBI knows how much to make sure that the banks allow the credit and so on and so forth. This Pradhan Mantri's Yojana, which is primarily about delivering crop and seeds back to through drones, are all of these examples of great usage of data science. And now you come back to the businesses. So for example, we or some of the companies work with variety of places that we do businesses with. One of the things that one needs to look at is, for example, credit monitoring or anti-money laundering type of use cases that the banks have used. The telcos, like we have talked about, have used this data to figure out how do you slice data in a 5G network environment so that you know that the right bandwidth is being offered to the right set of people. Supply chains, examples of delivery and some of these great companies in India are examples of those that have been able to use how to predict supply chains and so on and so forth. And no better a time than we realized it that data science is also about things that you can't predict. So the faster you adopt data science, you change a few things. You change your company and organization's culture to look at data as the primary source. So you may not be using it as effectively as you do, but your step one is, are you deciding using data? Then you can know that someone who's modeling it is probably modeling it at a level 1, then someone who's a smarter data scientist modeling at a level 2, and so forth. So higher you go. But the first job of an enterprise has to say that, am I taking these decisions data-based? Therefore, where is this data getting stored? Where is the source of that data? And if you ask those fundamental questions, you'll be smarter, because things where one is, we started the conversation before you were starting to discuss this. There is no better time to define VUCA than we are in.
All right.
And it is going to be more and more the
VUCA.
same world of VUCA, which will become, maybe font size will become bigger and bigger.
VUCA is the new normal.
VUCA is the new normal. In that world, data science is the only way to cope with it. And if tomorrow, what happened in pandemic, for us to figure out the supply chains during COVID was the biggest challenge that we had, and we could figure out most countries, most companies, most enterprises who were successful were because they were using data science.
Absolutely. Professor Ratuldev, artificial intelligence and ML, of course, are modern buzzwords, and it's also increasing a lot of productivity in multiples that we probably could not have imagined, bringing in a lot of efficiencies, because there are a lot of new insights that have come about, and it's the handmaiden of data science, AI and ML. How are you integrating that into a curriculum from a preparation of a student's point of view?
A very nice question. So obviously we do have courses focused on BTech in AI ML, BTech in cybersecurity, and then there are courses in management courses on decision sciences, business intelligence, and so on and so forth. How we do it is, if you look at it, we do take a three-tiered approach. We create the foundations in the form of giving them the right lessons in mathematics, statistics, and programming. That becomes the foundation for any of the work that happens on that. Then we take them into the labs where they are trained upon specialized models, especially in the neural language processing, the neural networks. That's the second tier. And then the final tier is very, very highly focused application based learning, wherein we are getting in more and more live projects, either from healthcare, financial world, from the world of banking, to enable universities like us. We have tied up with companies, with organizations where we can actually have our students work on real data,
Right.
anonymized data. And why because the issue with big data science is it's more or less unstructured. And with the the speeds of internet increasing, earlier, let's say, some tracking was happening every 1 minute. Now the tracking is happening every millisecond. So that's explosion of data. So how do you work on that data? You need real-time data or real data sets from healthcare onwards to predict, build models. So for that purpose, we have tied up with organizations like NECs of the world and so on and so forth. And we also have industry level licenses on the labs that our students work upon. We also do something beyond that. Every 3 to 4 months, we have our faculty getting trained on newer dimensions of the pedagogical changes that need to be driven, to ensure that the students are getting the right mix of both the foundational courses and the infrastructure that gets built on the foundation. Because there's always that risk that industry wants the output, but it is one thing that I can give an output,
Right.
but if I don't create that output, build that output on the foundation, if I skip on the mathematics lessons, if I skip on the statistics lessons, if I skip on the programming lessons, I can deliver a product, but that product will be a static product
Absolutely.
to the industry. So these are the ways we at GLA are incorporating. We're creating more and more space within the curriculum, taking away stuff which might not be so relevant for data science students and all. And so we are also using data science to deliver customized solutions to smaller groups of students.
Absolutely. Jagdish Mitra, one question that comes to mind is, and probably that's a kind of an underrated aspect in data science, is that while it's trimming teams and increasing productivity, there's also increased risks for the data scientists themselves. So what are the pros and cons? Because you have a front row seat of what's happening in this space. What are the pros and cons for the data science community itself?
Well, I think like everything else, as technology advances and you use those applications, there will be certain pros and certain cons, like you rightfully asked. Let me sort of talk about the pros. We are dealing with humongous amounts of data, so there is a lot of work that is probably at the base foundation level of work. Now, as AI and ML and data science start to collaborate in the role of doing a lot of those opportunities, it takes away the mundane from the job that the data scientist has to do. And therefore, and it's not going to, as the term AI suggests, at the term new technologies like agentic AI suggests, they'll keep progressing one level over the other. So, for example, our firm does primary work around agentic AI in Humanize. We know that our goal is to constantly up the bar on this. That doesn't mean that we don't need the modeling guy. That doesn't mean that we don't need the data scientist on it. The data scientist brings together the ability for it to be able to put the whole creative aspects of and the connecting the dots. So to a certain extent, the data scientist's role is always going to get further and further enhanced. The technology will keep pushing it higher and higher. And therefore, the pros and cons lie in this juxtaposition between both the data scientist and the technology of AI and ML rising up.
Right.
Now, what I see happening very much in the near future is that it's not a static world where we started our conversation
Right.
from. So even data science is not something that today's student or today's business owner or a tech company can stay static on. They'll have to learn new models, they'll have to apply those new models and see how to keep constantly upping the game. And in that world, yes, there are risks to jobs. There are risks to opportunities that today seem static, but only to those raw jobs in which the owners of those jobs are not enhancing their skills and capabilities to the next level. So, for example, if you're going to put a model into place for a bank, has the bank as a consumer or what you're trying to do an autonomous work for them, has it got something to learn from what has happened in the retail segment? Has it got something to learn on data sciencing that has happened in the healthcare service segment or from the telecom segment or vice versa? That connect of putting the whole thing together is the data scientist role. So in our jobs of that data scientist needs to constantly up the game in how to leverage the tools that are coming. If not, then those jobs are definitely going to be under pressure.
So it's essentially about dealing with the hows and whys because the whats are already being taken care of.
Absolutely. And if you look at examples, just as I was talking to was coming to my mind that, there are thousands and thousands of videos on how food is to be cooked.
Correct.
And what recipe has to be used. Has it taken away the role of a chef?
No, never.
No. The chef still ups the game, and that's why he's a specialized chef, because he knows how to put the whole things together and do it. If you're not upping the game,
Right.
then this technology will catch up with you.
Absolutely. Professor Ratuldev, one of the things that data science requires is, from a student's point of view, is infrastructural support. And that's critical because you did mention about GPUs, for instance. This kind of support is required if someone is interested in charting out a career in data science. So what is it that GLA is doing, and how are you exposing students to real life problems?
Yeah, so there are a few steps that any university and GLA for sure has executed. There's a humongous amount of infrastructure that has gotten executed in the form of labs, in the form of specialized labs, specialized centers of excellence, where you have high-end GPUs being deployed, where I was talking about, industry level licenses being used, where it's no longer a student license that is being used on the softwares that the students are working upon. They are not student licenses, they are industry level licenses. Then there is collaboration with industry in getting the real-time data scientists who are working at various different layers, not just the visionaries, but even the ones who are there for the past 2 years or 5 years in data science, working in that domain. They are being brought in, and there's a collaborative learning with the academia on that. So that on that infrastructure, this is the software, I would say the human software is being executed. Right. Then there are well-equipped classrooms. For high-speed, fiber optic lease lines are there, where the entire campus is Wi-Fi, including the hostel. You have digital libraries in place where the student can access anything and everything that is to be accessed, that is to be required, and they can access it from anywhere, whether within the university premises or even outside university premises. The hostels are all equipped. So there is a seamless learning environment from the time you wake up to the time you get into the class, to the time you go back to your hostel room or anywhere else, or in any time in between, and you have the infrastructure support given to you. So everything is digital, everything is online. Yeah. So we are trying to make it as easily accessible as possible, as right. powerful as possible, and as real life as possible by providing them with industry level licenses and all.
Jagdish, Mitra, Professor talked about programming, mathematics, data analytics. Of course, it's a no-brainer. You need to have those aptitude for those to become a data scientist. But what is it that you require beyond that? There is something that you need to know and demonstrate to to hone your counterintuitive skills here, because eventually, if machines are doing many things, the counterintuitive aspect is going to be where the humans are going to, our professionals are going to stay ahead. What are the other skills that are required? What is the kind of aptitude beyond these three that are required?
It's a very, very good question, because it's at the core of what I believe, and the core we think is that not human in the loop as we go in the future, but human at the center.
Yeah.
Still, and that's how at least we felt that the future is going to unfold.
Yeah.
As much as we know about the future. I think the key skills that humans bring to the table, which will be more and more required as we go forward, are the intuitive skills. The intuitive skills of being able to, a huge amount of the data sets, and I'm combining data science along with AI, ML, and ML ops, and so on and so forth, because they are the tools that ride on top of the data, is the issue about ethics and bias. I think that's one critical point where humans have to play the more critical role of how you are putting it. What you teach it to be taught is what it is going to result in. So therefore, that's a critical skill that every individual or human being needs to know. What are we doing this for, and what are we expecting? How do we mention that this biases are removed from the story? I mean, there was a joke that humans have more biases than AI models, but that's why if you need to put a governance structure around it, then you can make sure that your results are there. Second is your ability to be creative in terms of the creative aspect of understanding that A dot and the B dot and the C dot can probably make sure that you're delivering something new. The innovation part will all come from the human. So those skills of being able to question, the skills of being able to experiment, and the skills of able to make sure that you have very clear fundamental understanding of what ethics and governance you're building this model for are going to be the human traits on which you will leverage the data science and the data sets that you're going to leverage to be able to build hopefully more robust models are the capabilities. And the fourth one is what we have talked about since the beginning. And it doesn't just apply to the students at GLA or anywhere else, but also to people like ourselves, that the time to be relevant has not been more demanding than now.
Right.
And if you're not learning something new on a regular basis, or you don't have the curiosity to ask that question and know, you're going to be left behind.
Absolutely. It's all about lateral thinking than vertical. Professor Ratuldev, final question to you, and even the same question I'll come to Jagdish Mitra later, is on, he did allude to ethical considerations so far as trying to eliminate those, and it's, eliminate biases, and how humans are going to play a critical role in it. But my question is more narrow focused. It is data we are dealing with here, and it's our data, people's data. Of course, if the fundamental question is who owns this data? If it is my data, do I own the data? Because we have something called the DPI, which is extremely successful, and it has become a template for the rest of the world, perhaps India's biggest fintech exports to the world. Unlike a public good like, say, a park, which is owned by the municipality, who owns the DPI, for instance? That's a big question, because there is no authority. It's very modular, and everybody is using that data. How do we deal with such ethical questions? We have a law in place now, but how would you address that?
Yeah, so it's about ethics at the end of the day. And only thing that I can say is it's never been so important as it is today. And the importance of ethics is going to increase and increase and increase.
Right.
It's how we train our next generation and the generation thereafter to look at ethics. One way that we do is expose them to real world case study. That, hey, these are the data breaches that happened, and this is the impact. And you would be amazed. It is the students who are more aware of the ethical questions there when the privacy issues come up.
Right.
Like you ask the question, who owns the data? It is my location, but the whole big question is, I have given permission.
Right.
But then it gets in. It's a never-ending question. If you
Right.
don't give the permission, you cannot use it, right? So what we need to be doing is expose and share the learnings from the breaches that have happened. Like he was talking about the Amazon example, and he used a very, and I'm sure he used it very consciously, where Amazon decides what you need to buy. It was very conscious. And something happened with a friend of mine. He and his wife had a fight. And 30 minutes later, he gets a notification on his phone, do you want to order dinner? That means what? The conversation was,
people are eavesdropping.
Snooping. So the only way ahead is showcase the issues, the challenges with data breaches, but more often than not, breaches are much easier to manage. What is difficult to manage is the biases.
Right.
So, and humans are in fact more biased than the system, because when the systems and the platforms are being built, those are being built, we are not deploying only one generation of resources, or one people only from a specific region or specific gender or a specific ethnicity are building those models. Those models are being built with multi-generational, multi-ethnicity people collaborating. But still there are biases in the models. Like for example, the banking loan approval models. There are very clear biases that are there. So the only way is letting our students and our faculty members know and making them aware of the challenges of the biases that can creep in. So the next level is how do you take them away? So awareness is the only way ahead, in my view, and taking strong, visible penal action in case of deliberate thefts or biases that have been pushed into the system.
Absolutely.
Because that's there has to be some bit of a penal action if it is intentional.
Absolutely, strict enforcement. But Jagdish, Mitra, last question to on the same point and technology develops in a certain way, and we have seen that throughout history. Is regulation is always playing catch up with innovation. How do you create a regulatory landscape where we can deal with this and also anticipate many of these?
So I think from a perspective, first let me sort of give an comment on the example the professor gave. It's very interesting about how we talk about biases and how systems come in, because here the recommendation engine thought of giving a suggestion saying that why don't you order dinner to the male member of the family, assuming that the bias is that the male member is the one who's needs the dinner, and because she's probably not going to cook because of this, but which is very interesting. However, I think from a perspective of how do we keep regulation and innovation, or the fact that innovation is ahead of the game, I necessarily don't think it's a bad thing.
Right.
Because what it pushes you to do is to think that you have not thought of.
Yeah.
Ultimately, innovation is nothing but sort of pushing the boundaries of services or products or anything that we do which hasn't been done before. And therefore, when you haven't done before, how do you plan for it?
Right.
So, I think whether it's, examples of taxi service, I know there were regulations put in different markets about Uber as to how they shouldn't do this and that, how does it impact jobs of cab drivers and what happens with the security of it and blah, 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 blah. And, autonomous driving has the same challenges where people are saying that, oh, this one guy in California 101 driving on Tesla died because he was on autonomous. Hello. I mean, there are more than thousands of people who die because humans make those accidents and make that happen. So there are examples of those which will then come in to say they are pushing the boundaries. But how do you keep it in balance and check? I think you got to have a team that is constantly about not what could go wrong, but what could go right.
Right.
That mindset shift of anyone who's regulating is that what are the benefits we are going to get out of it? Yes, there are going to be some negatives. Yes, there are going to be some challenges to the society or to the ecosystem. We do need to put guardrails to make it happen. But you know what I mean? I mean, the thinking process shouldn't be about how the whole world will come crashing if people find out this information or tool, but how the people can benefit
out of it.
I mean, the same thing we talk about snooping.
Right.
I mean, we all benefit from it. Now, how do you create awareness to Professor's comment so that you know what you're signing up to?
Right.
And that's the guideline and tools and operations that a regulator has a role to play.
Absolutely. You need to have the right.
I think we should change the term from regulator to facilitator.
Absolutely, and we need to have the right mix of people sitting on these with this kind of responsibilities. Thank you so much, Professor Ratuldev Ghosh Choudhury
Thank
and
you.
Jagdish Mitra, for taking the time out and dropping by and having this conversation with us and sharing deep insights and perspectives on a range of issues.
Yes,
Thank you.
privilege.
Pleasure's mine.
That was all on this episode of Future Proofed. In this series, we'll look at the current trends that are shaping the future of work. We bring you these in partnership with GLA University, which is at the forefront of training a new generation of students in modern-day job demands. We hope this show guides and inspires you on your educational, professional, and self-improvement journey. We'll be back soon with more academic and industry perspectives on the evolving Indian jobs landscape. Until then, goodbye. Take care and stay safe.